You know, the story of Julius Malema is still yet to be told by many. Whether many leaders who have witnessed the rise of his leadership, whether people who have always been in the struggle with him from the ANC. Today we have Mr. Sexwale expressing his disappointment and his regret for losing Julius Malema within the EFF structures, the structures of the Youth League of the ANC. Mr. Sexwale is saying some very scary yet not amazing things. Of course, amazing, I mean not shocking things. We can all expect many of these people from the ANC, these old OGs, to say these things. They regret losing the CIC, because what came from losing the CIC was not just losing the CIC. It was a lot more than just losing the CIC. But I want you guys to listen to Mr. Tokyo here.
I have never agreed that Malema should leave the ANC. A few of us stood in the ANC leadership and said, don't do it.
Sure.
And we even attended his ANC trial. Your father was his defense.
Yeah.
But in the ANC, the constitution, if you are charged, the Integrity Commission, if you are charged, you don't bring people, witnesses. It must be everybody. The presiding officers, the witnesses, it must be members of the ANC. That's how it is. So those of us who were witnesses, Floyd, Malema, Winnie was there, Mbalula was there, Paul Mashatile, Matthew Posa.
Wow.
And we were saying, let's not go this far, comrade.
Sure.
Let's find a way of dealing with these young people. We're dealing with the president of the ANC Youth League.
Yeah.
But we're not saying the law applies differently. And of course, there was some indiscipline on their part.
Sure.
You know, at the end of the day, justice must prevail, you know, because we are a just organization. Should be finally an expulsion. Let me not get involved with that, because, you know, history has got done. The fact of the matter is that eventually, they were expelled.
Yeah.
Look what's happening right now.
My view unnecessary. I'll give you an example about Malema.
Yeah, sure.
I said, Mbalula asked me to defend Malema. He was secretary of the Youth League.
Interesting.
Yeah. Zuma was sitting there and I said, I've been asked to defend him. I love cases. I'm a lawyer. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
So I defended him very successfully. But there was a small little thing where we thought Malema must go for political education, which we discussed and agreed. Got him out. But I argued that there's no dustbin for comrades. I'm the first one to use that expression. There's no dustbin for comrades. In a political organization, we must find corrective political solutions.
Sure.
We should not crush people, especially the young ones. The ANC did not listen. We lost 1 million of the youth when Malema left.
True.
Gone. And the ANC Youth League has never recovered. I don't care who says what.
Yeah.
It's never been what it is. And me at that time as a treasurer funded the most expensive youth conference with the biggest amount of delegates, 7,000 since exile. I paid 40 million rand cash for that conference. And 2 weeks later, you've expelled the president. What did you expect? Those guys will follow him. And they did. So it shows you in a political movement, you need to use politics to resolve political problems.
Sure.
Don't settle scores.
So you think that was a mistake that the leadership made at that time?
The biggest mistake. They made a mistake.
Of course, shout out to Season Pofuwash. Season Pofuwash was interviewing Mr. Sexwale, and the man was expressing how he regrets the way Julius Malema was handled from the ANC when he was expelled by President Jacob Zuma. Of course, before the MK party minions come and try to attack President Jacob Zuma, sent President Cyril Ramaphosa, which by then President Cyril Ramaphosa was still the deputy president. Deputy president, doing the bidding of the president, expelled Julius Silo Malema on behalf of the presidency, which was from President Jacob Zuma. That story is highly debatable. That conversation, there's many people who are about to come here and become vultures for just me mentioning Ngamalala being involved. But I think we all know he was the one involved, because the Youth League was rising against Ngamalala. About Julius Malema, they were a thorn to Ngamalala. That's why he had to deal with them. That's why he had to chase them away from the youth league and the structures of the ANC. Of course, that story is still yet to be told by many. Many are still yet to tell the story of the CIC, the story of the ANC, how much they miss him. This man is not the only one, by the way, to express how the ANC shouldn't have chased Julius Malema. Julius Malema went with the youth, and he didn't just went with the youth. He went with the consciousness of South Africans, and he made those South Africans come and pay too much attention to him. Whether from a negative standpoint, whether from a positive standpoint, the whole attention is now on Julius Malema. And it was going to be fair for it to be on Julius Malema while he was still in the ANC, because he was going to be talking and rallying for the ANC. But now he's not talking and rallying for the ANC, he's speaking against the ANC, and is coming with the EFF policies that resonate with a lot of people. Of course, not a lot, not the whole country, but a lot of people who find themselves voting and expressing, their attachment to these policies Julius Malema is preaching and standing for within the EFF. But hey man, shout out to Mr. Tokyo Sexwale for expressing this. Of course, when he was also digressing, talking about we had to deal with our Julius Malema because they were a thorn. They were a thorn because they were it's like they were retaliating after getting all the threats from these old OGs because they are young and radicals. So they were retaliating. They were being more radical. They were speaking more against the leadership of the ANC. They were preaching more of those radical policies within the ANC, to the point whereby the ANC had to just forget about the whole disciplinary process and just deal with them like that. And they dealt with them. They had to deal with them because it was going to be a risk to the presidency of President Jacob Zuma, because he was moving in a different way, not even prioritizing black people, not distinct. He was never pushing black unity back then, didn't care about nationalization of didn't care about taking the land, and this youth was preaching that. He had to deal with them so he can continue business as usual. Of course, they won't agree, these people, but the history, you can never change the history. It doesn't matter how much you lie. MK Party, you can never lie about the history. We all know the history of the presidency of Mr. Jacob Zuma. Nobody can lie about that, and the story will be told the same way I'm telling it. It will never be changed. We're not misled here. We were there, we know what happened, but of course it is what it is. Thank you very much, guys.
I have never agreed that Malema should leave the ANC. A few of us stood in the ANC leadership and said, don't do it.
Sure.
And we even attended his ANC trial. Your father was his defense.
Yeah.
But in the ANC, the constitution, if you are charged, the Integrity Commission, if you are charged, you don't bring people, witnesses. It must be everybody. The presiding officers, the witnesses, it must be members of the ANC. That's how it is. So those of us who were witnesses, Floyd, Malema, Winnie was there, Mbalula was there, Paul Mashatile, Matthew Posa.
Wow.
And we were saying, let's not go this far, comrade.
Sure.
Let's find a way of dealing with these young people. We're dealing with the president of the ANC Youth League.
Yeah.
But we're not saying the law applies differently. And of course, there was some indiscipline on their part.
Sure.
At the end of the day, justice must prevail, because we are a just organization. Should be finally an expulsion. Let me not get involved with that, because, history has got done. The fact of the matter is that eventually, they were expelled.
Yeah.
Look what's happened in